You're listening to Fighting Game Follies.
It's the #1 podcast for low-level player opinions.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Round 1.
Hello to all of my masters, grapplers, and set play psychopaths, Wi-Fi warriors, O2ers, and tournament organizers. What's going on? It's your host. I'm back at it again. Griever Games, Games.png, whatever. We got a lot to get into today because today is not going to be a traditional episode. We're going to be veering off of our regularly scheduled program and doing the thing that I said that we were going to talk about last week because something that happened, something happened from when like you run a news style informed like podcast. News came out during the week. I don't know if any of you guys saw, but Tekken 8 news, a lot of Tekken 8 news came out. We got an entirely new mechanic slash like system that was introduced to the game, a new character, or not a new character, but a new character was revealed outside of like the other ones that we had already got. A lot of new characters were revealed. But yeah, a lot of stuff came out. A lot of stuff came out for Tekken 8, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned that this is a game that I want to try and get, start dipping my toes into. So, with me wanting to dip my toes into the Tekken series, I feel like it would be a way better time than ever to actually talk about this stuff. And so this is how I'm gonna start dipping my toes into the Tekken series by talking about it first and foremost, and just giving my just general analysis on the things that came out that Harada and the team dropped. So that's what we're going to be doing for this week. Next week, obviously, it's going to be where we should go back on track to our regularly scheduled stuff. I don't know if Capcom wants to drop any SF6 news or anything, but we'll go back to our regularly scheduled program next week. But this week we gotta talk about Tekken 8 news, and since this sort of just came out the blue random for me, I didn't really have the chance to compile all of the information like how I normally do. So if this seems more off script or unscripted than my regular episodes, then I do apologize, but I just wanted to get the information out and just sort of give my opinion on the information as soon as I possibly can. So first off, let's actually talk about what's going on and what is actually happening. And I feel like in order to do that, we should talk about the character that actually came out, Nina. Nina has a lot of really cool stuff in her kit that she sort of shows off outside of the system mechanic things that she also does give light to as well. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Basically, what Nina does is something interesting, and Law to an extent as well, but it seems as if weapons are going to be a bigger part in the Tekken 8 gameplay, sort of loop, as it seems, because there's, I think 2 or 3 moves that Nina uses where she just pulls out the 9 and, goes to town and starts firing, which, I don't know a whole lot about Tekken, but I'm pretty sure that wasn't in Tekken 7 or any of the other Tekken franchises. Same thing with Law, pulls out his nunchucks, goes to town on him. Bruce Lee. Bro really think he Bruce Lee. He is in fact Bruce Lee. So there's that. I think the weapon system is kind of cool. I think obviously it's just adding more to the characters that have already had stuff. Tekken at this point has snowballed into such a big franchise that you literally can't take away anything because it's so integral to the character's moveset or something for that specific game, and then it just keeps getting added on with more stuff. So, I mean, that's sort of what happens. You get a really big, or probably the biggest 3D fighting game franchise out there. But oh well, what can I say? I don't even play the games. I play Lucky Chloe, so I can't say anything. Hopefully she gets in this game, but yeah, I can't say anything about that. It seems cool though. I don't think it's going to be how the Akuma geese and other characters like that, firewalls and other projectiles are going to work, because it seems different. It's not in that same sort of realm of being a standard fighting game projectile where it's a long hitbox or an actual projectile. It feels less like a thing that you will shoot out in order to make space, and more like a move that's going to have its own drawbacks, which ultimately that's what Tekken is about. It's about throwing out a move, seeing out what that move does, seeing what are the benefits of throwing out that move, the drawbacks, what does it do, what are the properties of it. It's a lot of stuff that goes into it, which is probably one of the other things why I couldn't get into Tekken, but I digress. it seems more like a move that's going to be like a response to something or like a combo extender rather than like something that you just throw out in neutral in order to like make space or open up your opponent. But from how it's used, that's how it seems like it might be used later on because like the things with it seem kind of weird. And I also just have a like general question as to if every character is going to get like some sort of like a weapon button or something, or like if it's only characters that we know in specific or like in Tekken lore that actually do use like weapons like guns, nunchucks, swords, and other like things like that. And then it also opens up the door to characters that had already had weapons in their kit and then used them like in tandem with the kit. Obviously not to like the extent of like I said like Law or Nina, but like still I wonder if this is going to like change up any of the like how returning characters are going to be using their like overall kits and everything. But I guess that's for the future to talk about when we get more information on the matter and whatnot. Um, but yeah, Nina, she looks good. Not my cup of tea in terms of like characters that I play. Once again, I play literally my Tekken. The entirety of my Tekken knowledge like consists of me playing um Akira or not Akira, Akuma and Lucky Seven, with like me gravitating a lot more towards Lucky Seven. I also did start playing no, Elizabeth, I think her name was. But yeah, it's a lot of meter. It's 2 meter characters and then like e-girl streamer chicks. But that I guess that's what I gravitated towards. So oh well. So yeah, Nina Williams, cool. Check out the what is it, the character trailer. I'll keep all of the stuff like descript in the description and everything, so you can go check those out at your leisure. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I did mention it, but I'm just reading off of the wiki and everything, and like trying to compile my thoughts like that because I do not have a formal script. But yeah, Nina's cool. The weapon system, like if it is going to be its own actual like system on top of the new system that we got, it's cool. I wonder how they're going to implement it more. I want to see how other characters interact with it. But like I said, that's for something in the future.
Round two.
Alright, so now that we're done talking about all the tiny stuff, all the little things, right? We talked about Nina, we talked about how weapons might be a thing. I think it's time that we actually talk about the big stuff that people are actually here for. You know, the new concept, which is the weird like little bar thing called the heat gauge or like the heat system. It's essentially what the entire game is built around, which I'm not really sure if I like a lot. And mainly like I think what this does is like sort of makes the game way too aggressive. Like I know that is what the design philosophy for like Tekken 8 and like the whole team are going for right now. It's like they literally said it. Their whole design philosophy is they want to be as aggressive as possible. But like my idea about like fighting games and things are is like you can't really have like a single of one thing. You can't like eat only meat for the entirety of your life. You have to mix veggies in there. Is it good to eat? Like, can you eat only meat? Like, yeah, sure, but it's not good for you. So that's just my design philosophy, but I'm sort of like jumping the gun here. I'm not even explaining what the heat system does. So basically you can activate it 2 ways. You can do like I think a heat engager move, like or it's either a heat engager move or like you can just activate like a regular heat thing without doing the move. And basically if you do the heat engager move, you get like a single heat bar or like a heat point, I guess I'd call it. And then with the heat point, you're able to do some cool and funny that extends the combo and gives you like a full combo extension. And if you activate it like the other way, then you're able to get 2 of those heat points and then do like 2 of them at like or you can do 2 of those moves. It also like regens health. When you attack people, like the bar, the actual heat bar, it like starts going down, like it stops the timer from it. It regens health, which like that's a new thing that like Tekken has now. It has regenerable health, so that's cool. I bet you can't guess how that's done. Yeah, that's right. You attack people, um, honestly, I'm just not sure how I really feel about the entire system in general. Most like I sort of want to see it more in action because like I said, like I'm not me personally, I'm not really a big fan of like only aggression because I think that's going to be bad for like the health of the game. especially with like something like Tekken. And once again, keep in mind, the entirety of this thing is about like my low tier opinions and whatnot. But my thing is having a game that's like purely just like aggression and like only hitting buttons is sort of going to like defeat like the mind games aspect of Tekken that I feel like it really had and what I really enjoyed, because then that sort of like Tekken was a game about like decision making that I like, and like really heavy decision making that you had to make in split seconds, which I think is something that like is like really slept on. And I feel like just going with a full aggression based system that's going to like kind of kill it, I guess. But I don't know. I guess we'll have to like see how it works on later on. But like I'm just not really a fan of it so far. We'll see more about it later on when like things come out and then everything. But like I'm just so far I'm not really seeing like a fan of the system. Like it seems fun, it seems cool. Like it seems like something that I would like to engage with. Like no, he engage. It seems like something that I would like to engage with, but I just don't really like the idea of it being like a offensive only like style of system, especially since in this like sort of showcase we didn't get any like defensive options shown off, which like I've been saying, or like I've been preaching, I feel like that's ultimately going to like not obviously not kill the game, because Tekken is a game that like literally cannot and will not die, and the very many attempts that it has had to die, it has come back like swinging like as harder as ever. But I feel like it's not going to be like the best for the game or like the game's economy and like ecosystem. But oh well, I guess I'll have to like play it and see. My opinions on this might change entirely. They might not, since this is technically going to be my first time getting into a Tekken game. Like when I did play like the tiniest bits of 7, but I got into 7 like way late. Um yeah, I don't know. Heat system seems okay, honestly. Not really my cup of tea with the aggression thing, like I said before, but I guess I can't really like knock it until I try it and then like actually get the chance to play it out, which they are having like closed alpha tests out, but like that's nowhere near me, so I'm probably not going to be able to try it until like assumed release date for when this game is going to come out on like 2024, 2025. Honestly, whenever like the day that we do get like some sort of like release date or like announcement trailer for a release date or something, then like there'll most likely be more like betas and everything. But until we actually get a like beta or some sort of like footage from like players or anything talking about the heat systems themselves, I won't really say anything other than the fact that it just doesn't seem like a system that I personally am going to enjoy. People might be like riveting at this and being like, "Oh, bro, this is so cool. I thought Tekken like 7 was like way too slow or something." I don't know how, but like sure. But I'm not really a fan of it.
Round three.
So now that I've poorly explained the heat system and like given my thoughts on it, I sort of just want to like bookend it all and like just sort of give my thoughts on the entire thing, and also just go through a couple of the comments that I'm reading from the official like Bandai Namco like gameplay mechanic stuff that Rada and like the Tekken team like went over. Because some of the I looked over a few of these, some of the statements I'm liking, some of the statements I'm like also liking, and like I want to like just put my own insight into the matter. A lot of people are and like before I like do complain, or like before I like step back and like complain a tiny bit more and just like what I said earlier, I do want to like preface that this game does still look really good. It does still look like really interesting and something that I am going to pick up. However, I'm just not a fan of the fact that it essentially seems like the more defensive players are getting the short end of the stick. And that's like kind of funny coming from me, because I'm not even a defensive player. I'm more of a like rush down dude. However, I still do want to see both ends of like the coin still be treated fairly. But without out of the way, I guess we'll talk about a couple of comments that I'm seeing from this. Looking at these and seeing like 6 days ago, 7 days ago, it feels so off. First one looks cool. I'd love to have some more defensive options to counter all of this or something. Hopefully, movement will be good. Same thing that I've been saying for like a good bit. I do want to see some sort of like specific defensive option because in the video itself, the only thing that they say is that the defensive option that you do have is you can either take it, you can try and do like a power crush move, which essentially gives like it's a move that has armor on it, and insert yourself like that, or you can block or not block, like sidestep and run away, which is counterintuitive in a sense because you have that other person like just pushing buttons willy nilly while the other is trying to get away from them like in their heat like stage, which doesn't really makes sense in my opinion. I feel like that's sort of like a conflict of interest there. But yeah, I would like to once again, I would just really like to see some sort of specific defensive option outside of like block, which I have a lot of issues with, and or like just sidestep or dodge because I feel like that doesn't actually solve the problem. It just sort of like pushes it for like a couple seconds later. Um, the most important content I hope to see in 8 is just more single player modes that we've had from the previous games, and the East like in the least at like gold. I can't speak. Like at least ghost battles where CPUs could do full combos and essentially work as punishment training in battles with customizable rounds and time set links. I can't really speak on this, but yeah, single player content would be something really important that I do want to see, especially since like other games in the like Tekken 8's competitor Street Fighter 6, well not competitor but like it's sort of spiritual like stepbrother in a way. It's like Street Fighter 6 is gearing up to have some really like hearty single player content. So, some single player content would be nice, especially since Tekken 7 did not have that like good of single player content at all. It had story mode which was solid and then training mode and like a couple other things, and that's really it. But nothing to really like fill the meat outside of like playing games with other people online. Some offline focus would be appreciated. Once again, more single player content. Yup. Heat system reminds me of Soul Charge from Soul Calibur 6, but with a twist. I didn't play Soul Calibur 6, so I can't really say if it is or isn't. I'm not really a fan of 3D fighters. As a defensive player, there are many things I'm not liking about what they said, but instead of complaining here, I want to give the devs props for the Heat Engager being set to characters' key moves. That's a genius way to show Tekken newcomers what moves are worth learning and practicing first. Yeah, that's smart. I think it is a smart idea to put it on more like heavily utilized moves for that character's moveset. I feel like that is something that's really like that's a smart thing to do because then you introduce like newer players to things that are really important in that character's moveset, and then you're essentially just starting them off of like, okay, cool, here's the specific tools that you want to learn first, and then everything else will sort of set into place like later on. Uh, is looking good. I hope that along with the online stuff, we get a good amount of offline modes, such as an arcade with character endings separate from the main story. I feel like that's something that I know. I understand Tekken has a huge roster, but I thought that would have been something that like would have been implemented at this point because like a lot of other fighting games do stuff like this, especially like or like even ones that do have like a tiny bit more larger sized rosters, they still do have the time to like fit something in like this. Even if it's after the launch, allows to unlock costume items by either buying them with in-game money or random match prizes, special cosmetics, give it to specific characters for challengers. Yep. A lot of mechanics, but I'm hopeful that the new stuff for newcomers will help an easy transition. With that said, we still need both proper rollback and full crossplay. True. I think it is hilarious how Tekken 7 is like one of the only games that like or one of the only modern fighting games that did not get like some sort of rollback patch or anything while everyone else like did. And that's something that I'm like very like scared for. Um I don't think Harada is insane enough to not give this game rollback on launch. However, I like Bandai is like sort of weird when it comes to rollback because fighters also took a good while to get rollback while everyone was still hopping on the rollback train. So I hope this game gets full like really good rollback like on the start, but if it doesn't, I feel like that's gonna be really really terrifying. Ready for my character reveals? Yeah, I am too. I just want Lucky Chloe back. That's all I really care for. Um, Question so far, it appears that Tekken 8 will not require as much strategy and skill compared to other Tekken games. Rather, it's more about creativity and how you use the heat system. Plus, you'll probably spend a lot less time in practice mode when it comes to picking up unfamiliar characters. I think what the second part of that has to do with how the heat engage moves are sort of tied to like the more key parts of a character's moveset. As to the creativity aspect of it, I'm not really seeing it, mostly because I feel like there's going to be like only a few like routes that you can really go into for like heat engage moves or like entering into heat. Because how I'm seeing the gameplay loop of Tekken 7 go into is play a tiny bit of neutral, get an opening, heat combo, like kill whatever character that you or like kill the character, rinse repeat for like 2 to 3 rounds, and that's it. Um, I still want to play, but if it's a spam fest, I could see this turning into or as a turning point into the series. The community could separate into groups and play the older games and the newer games. We have already seen this with a pretty large scale in the Smash Bros. Community. That is true. I feel like that's something that's like that could potentially happen here, and this is like most definitely going to be like some sort of turning point. But at the same time, I also don't really see that because Tekken has had a lot of turning points when it comes to its lifestyle, like lifetime. I mean, that makes sense. But initially, I feel like there would have been like some sort of turning point when they started doing things like adding terrain, breakable walls, and other things like that. Obviously, not to like the larger scale that like adding an entire new like system mechanic is, but I still feel like there would have been like some sort of point there. Obviously, Tekken still didn't really like die off, so we know how that like worked and came out. But yeah, Smash Bros. Has come out with 3 games since Melee, yet Melee's popularity continues to go through the grassroots efforts. Learning about all of this new gameplay mechanics is a little worrisome, as it seems as an incentive to spamming and button mashing. Maybe it's not that it's actually the case, but it seems to be my initial impression. True, honestly, very true, King. I don't feel like it's going to be a spam fest per se. I just feel like there's going to be less like player creativity because there's going to be essentially it's going to boil down into get into heat as soon as possible and then like do that. Like it's gonna lose the interesting point of what makes fighting game characters like different and unique from each other because they all have very drastically different and unique gameplay like styles and what their overall goal is going to be. Like if I want to play a grappler, obviously I need to get up and close, but if I want to get up and close and do that safely, oh, what do I have to do? Move in, heat engage, and then just like push a bunch of buttons until I can get you into a steady grab loop, and then boom, you're gone. Like if I want to play a zoner, there isn't even really a reason for me to engage with heat because zoners don't exist. So I now just have to turn into a rushdown and make sure that my heat gauge stays up because by like tacking you a bunch. New mechanics look sick. Can't wait for it in Tekken 8. Sure, hope they are working hard to balance everything. Actually, yeah, balance is going to be an insanely huge thing in this game. I wonder how the balance, like patches and everything, are going to be. Cause like if the heat system is not balanced efficiently, I feel like that's going to be another thing that like really um like kills it in a way. Let's go for like 3 more. Sounds like perfect for newcomers, but for veterans, more aggression means more opportunities to sidestep, backdash, or see or counter hit launch. True. That like I feel like that's just gonna be it for like a good part of the game's life cycle as like older veterans of the game and everything just like sort of bully newcomers until people like understand things. Tekken is going a great way. One of the biggest issues for me was that many characters felt quite the same in comparison to other games like Street Fighter. Mechanics look amazing in fresh air, good for beginners, can't wait. I don't really agree with this. I feel like Tekken had some of the more expressive and like interesting characters when it came to how like their overall gameplay styles actually were. And I feel like Tekken 8 did that a lot, especially with like this is sort of a low blow, but like especially with some of the DLC characters, Elizabeth, Geese, Akuma, like just I think Tekken 7 is gonna be essentially like like how that other comment said earlier. I feel like Tekken 7 is essentially going to be like the melee to Tekken 8's like Smash Force, like Smash Brawl, and like just everyone that stuck playing Tekken 7 is probably going to stick playing Tekken 7, and then everyone like that moves on and plays Tekken 8 and whatever else comes after this is like going to like continue on with the series. And I really don't want that to happen, mostly because Tekken 7 is a very hard game to get into. Like there is no there's not a whole lot of like really well resources like in game itself for Tekken 7 to like get into. Like there are outside of it, but you shouldn't have to go outside of a game in order to like want to play the game. But those are some of the comments that people are saying. You can go check them out down in the video description itself. Um, Overall, I'm not really sure how I'm feeling about this game after a tiny bit. I'm gonna have to see like something more from it in order to like really get a good gauge on that. And obviously, when we do get something else, I will come back talk about it. Um, yeah, it's like heat system. The heat system itself is cool. It is really interesting in how they're using it and implementing it. But I feel like the entire, like basing the entire mechanic off of solely being aggressive and like pushing buttons was not a good way to do it. Like essentially, I don't want to like, cause I am a gearhead. I don't want to like harken it back to Gear, but like Gear has some really good defensive mechanics that you can use without tension and with tension. And I feel like there would have been some like it could have been a really good system if you could have mechanics that like use both the heat system like in terms of defensive and still kept the offensive stuff for the heat system, and like have it be like a balancing act where like some of the defensive stuff counters the offensive stuff for the heat system, but like it still gets opened up by like normal things so that like there's more decision making. But I digress. There's gonna be like some sort of like there's going to be a shift in momentum eventually. This is a new game. This is a new generation of fighting games. We're essentially getting into, I want to say, like the fourth like era or like the fourth new era of fighting games in my opinion. So we'll see. Most definitely see a change. We're gonna be seeing a change in the status quo. We're going to be seeing a change in how like everything is like sort of done and like kept moving forward. There is going to be a lot of a change, and who knows, maybe with enough pushback from the community there might even be like some sort of new defensive system that gets added, like because we do know that like Harada does like to listen to his top players. So whatever the top like whatever the top consensus is from like the top players, whatever they say, if they're rocking with it, then Harada's left to cook in the stew. If not, then like we might hopefully get a change, or like at the very least some sort of like defensive additives to this, because I'm really not a fan of just block or dodge. But that's it for me. That's it for all of the things that I gotta say about Tekken 8 as of right now. Um Next, like I said, next week we're going to be getting back into our regularly scheduled program. So there's that. Um, but yeah, that's really all I have to say. Game still does look really good. Game, I am still going to play the game. Like it doesn't, I'm not gonna like not play it because it has a system that I don't really enjoy. Though it is looking a tiny bit steeper now. But yeah, that's all of my takes that I have from the thing. Once again, all of the videos and everything are linked in the description down below. And yeah, that's it. If you want to see more of my like really bad takes or like anything that I retweet on Twitter or like whatever, go down there, follow me on the socials. I don't really have. Oh, no. I don't really have anything else to say. Thank you all so much for letting me ramble on. This episode might be a tiny bit shorter. Maybe, who knows? I can't really tell. This episode is, if it is shorter, then it's shorter. If it's not, then just completely forget everything that I'm saying here. But thank you so much for listening into this like clown's ramblings. Yeah, that's all. I'll see you all in the next one. Love you guys. Peace out. Keep yourselves clean. Keep yourselves cool. And I'll like see you in the next one. Yeah.